So in this video I'm going to be answering the questions: how good is Hugo Ekitike, both from his FBref reports and from the eye test? How would he fit into Ruben Amorim's 3-4-3 system? Is he the style of forward that Amorim needs? And should Manchester United sign him, and for what price? So straight away, I think Hugo Ekitike is one of the best young forwards in Europe. And I've actually thought this for quite some time, as I made a video a few years back whilst Ekitike was at Rem, prior to his move to PSG, talking about a potential move to Manchester United. And whilst he did struggle to establish himself in the PSG first team, I think everyone knows that that doesn't mean that you aren't a good player, or capable of becoming an elite level player in the future, with previous names such as Xavi Simons and Nkunku, Moussa Diaby, amongst others, all being testaments to this. Since then, Ekitike has made a move to Eintracht Frankfurt for a fee of around £14 million in the summer, after initially going on loan for the second half of last season, which on paper was a loss for PSG to take him from Rem, but it has been reported that PSG do have a 30% sell-on clause in the deal they signed with Eintracht Frankfurt. But in terms of the sort of forward that Ekitike is, I think he's a perfect modern day forward, and I say forward rather than centre forward because his skill set is so varied that I think he could comfortably play in any of the three forward positions in Amorim's front three. And when I show you his FBref report metrics, I think you'll see why I rate him so highly. Well, before I break that down, a quick reminder: if you do want to check out any cheap, good quality football jerseys, go over to dragonjersey.com. They've got a variety of different retro jerseys, with Manchester United shirts going all the way back to the early 90s. You can use code ALANTIS at checkout for a 10% discount for a limited time, and depending on where you live, you can get 7 to 12 day delivery time, as well as a money back guarantee. If you do want to get in contact with them, they do have their WhatsApp and email on the site. So I'll leave it linked in the description and comment section below, and remember to use code ALANTIS at checkout for a 10% discount. But just from the eye test alone, you can clearly see that from a technical standpoint, he is at least a level, maybe a few levels above someone like Rasmus Højlund, being far better at linking play with his back to goal, receiving the ball in tight spaces, and using his quick footwork and close ball control to wriggle out of pressure. And when he does receive the ball in and around the box and being surrounded by opposition defenders, something that neither Højlund or Xerxes really have the ability to do. And when he is able to manufacture a shooting opportunity, his technique is excellent, specialising in those powerful low-driven strikes across the keeper, where he has shown this season he can be very clinical, but he isn't someone who relies on shooting from these specific positions, as you could argue is the case with someone like Mathys Tel, who is a lot more one-dimensional with his shooting. Instead, Ekitike has a variety of different finishes in his locker, both when striking across the keeper, but also when having to open up his body and use greater placement to find the far corner, and being capable of doing this off of both feet. And his goal scoring ability can be clearly seen from his FBref report, as in the last 365 days, when compared against every other forward in Europe's top 5 leagues, Ekitike ranks in the 80th percentile for his non-penalty goals, scoring at a rate of 0.56 per 90, slightly overperforming his non-penalty XG by 0.03 per 90, ranking in the 84th percentile for his non-penalty XG, which has led to him scoring 11 goals in 19 Bundesliga games this season, 2 in 8 in the Europa League, and 3 in 3 in the DFB Pokal, totalling 16 goals in 30 games already this season. Now, if you're someone that merely judges forwards by glancing at their goal scoring record, then you're probably a bit underwhelmed by Ekitike's goal scoring record in the last few seasons, having scored just 4 in 17 games last season, and 4 in 32 during the 22-23 season at PSG. But in 21-22, for Rem in Ligue 1, he hit 10 goals in 24 games as a 19-year-old, and he's still only 22, not 23 until the summer. And in general, I think people have this completely unrealistic standards for young strikers. They want them to be scoring 20 plus goals a season after season, have a complete skill set, be quick, excellent pressers, physical, be younger than 25, and also cost less than £50 million, which is just a fantasy, when in reality most strikers, or should I say forwards, aren't going to be hitting their goal scoring peak till their late 20s, and aren't going to be putting up serious numbers until they get to their mid 20s most of the time. And so unless you've got like £75 million plus to spend, you need to be looking at signing players who are on the cusp of reaching that goal scoring level. And for me, Ekitike has displayed that he has all the raw mental and technical attributes to eventually reach that level, not in the next 5 to 7 years, but in the next 1 to 3. I mean, Alexander Isak is a perfect example of this. During the 22-23 season, when he was 22 years old, he was putting up similar numbers for Newcastle to what Ekitike is: 10 goals in 22 Premier League games, and 11 in 29 in all competitions, having only scored 6 goals in 32 La Liga games and 3 in 6 Europa League games for Real Sociedad the season before. But Ekitike is far more than just a goal scorer, and so this is why, despite some people maybe trying to compare him to Højlund and claim that they are the same level purely by looking at their goal scoring metrics, it's clear to me that Ekitike on current ability, and also in my opinion in terms of potential, is a far bigger talent when compared to Højlund and even Xerxes as well. And that's because Ekitike has the best attributes of both Xerxes and Højlund's skill sets, being very good when dropping off and linking play with his back to goal, not to Xerxes' level when he is on top form. Even though I would argue that Xerxes has been rather inconsistent when it comes to his layoffs and passing for Manchester United this season, but Ekitike, unlike Xerxes, also has the pace, physicality and dribbling ability to be able to turn the man on his back and drive forward with the ball, weaving in and out of oncoming players, and being an excellent retainer of possession as well, which can be seen by his pass completion rates for his short, medium and long passes, all ranking fairly highly around the 65th to 80th percentile range. However, this is where the stats do show how good Ekitike is, as from the eye test, you can already see that Ekitike is a fantastic dribbler and ball carrier, being exactly the type of player that Amorim needs in one of those two interior forward positions, being able to utilise his pace to spin into the channels and having a similar sort of ability to Isak when it comes to being able to beat a defender in these areas and then progress the ball into a dangerous position around the box. And this can be seen by the fact that he ranks in the low 90th percentiles for all of his ball carrying metrics, the 98th percentile for the volume of take-ons that he's completed, as well as the 78th percentile for the percentage of take-ons he completes as well, showing that statistically, when it comes to forwards who can progress the ball via their dribbling and ball carrying, Ekitike, even at 22, is one of the best at this in Europe. Which is exactly why I think the stylistic comparisons between him and Alexander Isak are completely valid, as for me, if you want a younger, cheaper version of Isak, Ekitike is your best option. But it's not just his progression of the ball via his carrying and dribbling that is impressive statistically, it's also his progressive passing and chance creation as well. See, around the box when under pressure, where decisiveness, composure and vision are all crucial, Ekitike also excels, as seen as he ranks in the low 90th percentiles for his XG assisted, his expected assists and his key passes, as well as ranking in the high 80th percentiles for his crosses and his passes into the box alongside that. And this is the main difference between a forward like Ekitike compared with Xerxes and Højlund, as Welsh United's current two centre forward options have fairly limited skill sets, particularly when it comes to composure and vision around the box. Alongside their pace, dribbling and ball carrying, Ekitike excels in all of these, and so whilst you could make the argument that his goal scoring isn't anything special, which statistically it certainly isn't at the moment, Ekitike offers you so much more in every other area, and crucially is versatile enough to play across the forward line. And even defensively, he's very impressive statistically, ranking in the mid 90th percentiles for the percentage of dribblers he has tackled, as well as his interceptions. And give it 1 or 2 seasons when he's refined his movement inside of the box and his finishing is even more clinical, United potentially could have one of the most complete forwards in world football. So should Manchester United sign Ekitike? Well, considering you'd imagine he'd cost somewhere between £35 to £45 million max, given what Frankfurt signed him for in the summer, I struggle to see too many better options on the market who are as complete as Ekitike, around his age and have his potential. Once you also factor in that you could probably get around £35 to £40 million for either Xerxes or Højlund if they were sold in the summer, without even factoring in the likes of Rashford and Sancho's deals, and maybe also Garnacho being sold as well, I think Ekitike for that price would be excellent value for money. But if signed, how would he fit into Amorim's 3-4-3 tactically, and what would be his best role in the front three? But just quickly, before I go any further, if you want to check out any of my unreleased videos on Patreon, you can sign up for just $1.50 a month. You can download the Patreon app and just read them straight from your phone. I've got articles on topics like Luis Campos at Monaco, Beppe Marotta at Sampdoria, how football clubs can use concepts from Donald Trump's book The Art of the Deal to improve their club's functioning in different areas, as well as some summaries of key concepts of books I've read over the last few years, such as The Inverted Pyramid and The Numbers Game. If you want to get access to the in-game Instagram group chat where I do provide analysis throughout all the Manchester United games, you can sign up to the $5 a month tier and still get access to the articles and unreleased videos. And you'll also get the tactical ebook, which I am in the process of finishing when it is released, completely for free if you are in the group chat. So if you do want to sign up and help support the channel, I'll leave my Patreon linked in the eye above description, comment section and on the end screen after the video. So in possession in the build-up phase, Ekitike's skill set is exactly why I think people are wrong when they say that the two players either side of the centre forward in Amorim's front line should be number 10s or attacking midfielders, who primarily operate solely in central areas but don't have the athleticism of a winger or a forward, and this is why. So when United are trying to play out of pressure in their defensive third, and the opposition are man-to-man pressing us effectively, this is where having a forward like Ekitike in one of those wide positions, either side of the main centre forward, in an ideal world for me it would be Gyökeres, makes our build-up phase a lot more effective. And this is because sometimes we aren't going to be able to play through the pressure with a series of shorter passes. We instead need to go more direct, and this is where Ekitike's pace comes into play, as if the left-sided centre-back receives the ball from the goalkeeper and the opposition initiate the press. By squeezing their midfield line into our defensive third to man-to-man press us, Ekitike can drop into this area, dragging the fullback on his back high, which opens up the space in the channel ahead, allowing him to then spin his man and either receive a direct pass from Kang-in or Martinez, the left-sided centre-back, into the channel that he can race onto, or if the direct pass goes into the chest, feet or head of the centre-forward, then Ekitike can receive the ball via a layoff down the channel, and if the opposition's centre-back on that side gets drawn out with the centre-forward's deeper movement, now Ekitike has more space to run into, and this type of pattern of play and movement from the interior forward wouldn't be as effective with someone that doesn't have Ekitike's rapid turn of pace, such as a Mainu or a Bruno in this role. But what I really like about Ekitike is that his skill set is so varied that he would offer United multiple different ways to progress the ball forward. Rather than receiving the ball through running in behind his fullback, he can also receive the ball to feet, dropping into the space behind the opposition's midfield line press, looking to open up a passing lane to receive a midfield splitting pass, either from the goalkeeper or one of the two centre-backs, wherefrom, even with a fullback on his back, Ekitike has the technical ability, physicality and acceleration to be able to turn the defender and drive forward into the space, which now sets up United perfectly for an artificial counter-attack, with the other interior forward on the other side, Garnacho in this example, spinning his fullback and driving down the right side, and the centre forward Gyökeres here, arcing his run around the right-sided centre-back and making a run in behind the back line, using the space that Ekitike's deeper movement had initially created. However, it's not just when he's running into space where Ekitike can be effective. Also in the middle third, he can operate in a central position between the lines, being far better than the likes of Mainu, Garnacho, or even Ahmad when it comes to acting as somewhat of a focal point of the attack, where United can feed incisive passes into his feet, and just like a conventional centre forward would, Ekitike either centrally or in the half space areas has the capability to hold off the defender and then link play with layoffs, or even turn his man and drive forward if the opportunity presents itself. But another way that Ekitike could be hugely effective for Amorim in the middle third is in the transition. As well as primarily Amorim wants to dominate and control possession, I think every top side in the Premier League needs to be able to take advantage of transitional situations, and United in recent history, at least with players like Rashford, Martial and Garnacho in the side, have been very good at doing this. And an example of how Ekitike can aid United's ability to create chances from these transitional situations can be seen from the second leg of Newcastle's semi-final against Arsenal the other day, where the ball was cleared upfield, and you can see that as Newcastle are about to win the first ball against Havertz, that because Arsenal are in the process of pushing up the pitch quickly, their defensive shape is not as compact as it would be had Newcastle had settled possession, and so there's space in the centre and in behind the back line for Newcastle to now exploit, and that's exactly what they do here. As when Guimaraes chests the ball down into Tonali, you can see that because the two Arsenal fullbacks, Lewis Skelly on the left and Timber on the right, have pushed up the pitch after the clearance upfield, there's a great deal of space not only in behind the Arsenal back line, but also wide of the two centre-backs, and when Tonali knocks the ball into Gordon's path, this is where we see Isak make the sort of run that I think we could see Ekitike provide in United's attack, arcing his run around the outside of the centre-back and racing onto the through ball, wherefrom he's got the pace to run away from Gabriel and then the composure and technique to rifle the ball into the back of the net. Now, even though this goal was eventually ruled out as offside, you can still see how having forwards with the movement and the pace of someone like Isak, which I think Ekitike could provide given his attributes, this can add another dimension to your attack, helping you particularly against sides who you are struggling to break down when they drop behind the ball in a deep and compact defensive unit. Because in this sort of transitional phase, the opposition players haven't had time to get back into shape, and so there are spaces in front of, wide off and in behind the back line for you to exploit. If you have the right player profile, specifically forwards with pace, who can run in behind and take advantage of this space. So overall, I think Ekitike, if we could get him for around 35 to 40 million pounds, would be a fantastic signing. He's a sort of complete forward that I think we need to be looking for in the front line. And if he can undergo a similar sort of development to the one that we've seen Alexander Isak undergo, I think we genuinely could have one of the best forwards in the league and one of the most complete forwards in world football. So let me know what you think of Ekitike in the comment section below, and if you do want to sign up to my Patreon to read my articles or get access to the in-game Instagram group chat and the free tactical ebook when it is released, I'll leave that linked on the end screen now.